Well, it's another YouTube Will It Run video. You've probably seen a few. I know I have. I love them. I think it's fun to watch an expert with lots of experience getting an old car running again for the first time. I'm going to put a little twist on that. And you're looking at it. I am not an expert with lots of experience. I'm a beginner. I love old cars. I've been thinking about them and reading about them for really since I was a kid. I've even been lucky enough to own a few, but what I don't own is any real experience working on them. Most of what you're about to see me do, I'll be doing for the very first time. Now, will that be interesting? Will it be entertaining? I don't know. If you're an expert, you can just laugh at me, that's okay. If you're a beginner, maybe you can learn along with me, maybe avoid a few of the mistakes that I am definitely gonna make along this little journey. And where are we gonna end up? Can a person like me, maybe a person like you, get a car like this running again after so many years? Will it run? Let's find out. This is my 1963 Chevrolet Corvair Monza Spider convertible, and the last owner parked this car in 1975. So it has been sitting without running for 47 years. And today, my buddy and I are going to do our best to attempt to get it running. Let's see how it goes. Okay, that was not easy. I think the next part's going to be harder though. Let's open this up and come in here and take a look at this engine. As you may know, a lot of people know, a lot of people don't know, the Corvair was a car produced by Chevrolet from 1960 to 1969. And it was extremely unusual because it has an air-cooled engine. This is a flat six, 3 banks of pistons on either side. And it was really designed to compete with the Volkswagen, which was being introduced in the United States in the 50s. And General Motors saw a need to compete with that. And a lot of people feel this car was not a success. I would disagree. They made, I think, millions of these cars. I don't know how many they made, but it was 10 full model years. They made station wagons, they made trucks, and they made these cars. This car is a little unusual because it is a Spider, which means it is turbocharged. Most of these cars came standard with carburetor here, carburetor there. This has a single side draft carburetor, which is a Carter carburetor. In any event, what you see here is the intake, the side draft carburetor, and the turbocharger, which is driven by this exhaust. And then the fuel air charge is introduced by this intake here, which is a long restricted intake, which a lot of people criticize the turbocharging for that. But that goes into the 2 banks of combustion chambers. And then you can't see the engine real well because a lot of it's covered by shrouds, these tins here. And that's to direct the airflow from the fan. Now this fan is belt driven, and one of the unusual features about the Corvair, of course, is the fan belt, which is pulls this pulley here, or that pulley supports it, and the alternator, or in this case a generator. And these are susceptible, because of their weird path, to braking, so you always have to carry an extra one with you. I already know this engine rotates, which is a good thing, but this engine rotates counterclockwise as we look at it from here. So we can actually just pull this belt, and if you get down here, you can see the flywheel right here. It's not the flywheel, whatever you call that. And we can actually see it rotate counterclockwise. It actually rotates pretty easily. So that's really good news. This engine is not frozen. The carburetor a little sticky, but it also is not locked up. Now, how gummed up in there and everything it is, I don't know. We can predict that it probably is. So our first job was to make sure the engine rotates. Having done that, I think what we'll do next is hook a battery up to it and see if we start a fire or not. Hopefully not. If we don't, we can work on starting to get this thing just to turn over. And if that works, we can do things like check the spark and maybe eventually add some gasoline into the mixture and see if we can get it to fire. So let's get a battery. So before we put the battery in, I think what I'm going to do is get this tire out of here. Believe it or not, this is the actual storage place for the spare tire in this car. Got a spare generator here, that's nice. We'll just set that there for later. This tire probably looks the best of any of them. They all are pretty dry rotted. This one looks all good. Here she comes. She's a Goodyear nylon, tubeless. This is this car came with 13-inch tires, but well, no, see, this one is a 13-inch tire, but the ones that are on now are 14-inch wheels. So if we put this on, we have a mismatched wheel. So we're just going to set this aside. Now, this car originally was equipped with a battery that was much more narrow than most batteries today. So this is not going to fit down in there originally. I'm going to try to just, yeah, that's, you know, it's not great. If we start cranking this thing, that's probably going to be an issue. But you know what, let's worry about that later. Maybe we'll put a little bungee right there or something. Meantime, I don't know. Let's hook this thing up. Here's the ground strap. She don't even reach up there. I might need to just use some jumper cables. I kind of hate jumper cables. I was afraid I'm going to electrocute myself. Anything else going on? I do not want to have that positive cable short-circuiting on something, right? That'll ruin your day. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Okay, nice. We have one taillight. We're just going to do the sniff test. Make sure there's no smoke or anything pouring out it from anywhere. Seems okay. I wonder if we should just crank on this thing. Now, one thing I don't necessarily want to do is pull a bunch of bad gas from that filter in there. I may just kind of clamp that off for now. In medicine, we call this a Coker clamp. Okay, this is used as like a vascular clamp. That's going to include that there. Got it on there, but is that even pinched off? Yeah, I think so. Let's try turning this over. So I can't immediately locate the keys, but then I just remembered this car is from the early 60s, and back then, believe it or not, you could choose not to lock the ignition. If you had the key in here, you could turn this to the lock position, but if you don't have the key in there, you can leave it just in the off position, and you could start this car without a key. I remember I had a 61 Buick that did that. Now we're in neutral, so I'm gonna just bump this a little bit and see if anything happens at all. Oh, we got a light there. That's the fan light because it's not turning. Well, how about that? She turns over. Okay, good. Didn't sound too bad. The battery, I think that thing's pretty well charged up, maybe 90% or so. So the starter may not be that great, but because it was not turning over real fast. But that didn't sound too bad. It galloped a little bit, which would indicate that some of the pistons have different compression from others. Let's listen to that again. Here we go. It's got a rhythm that indicates that maybe some of those rings, which you'd expect after it's sitting for a while, some of the rings have a better seal than others. But we're getting a little, it's at least turning over. So on to the next thing. So now that we know that this thing actually turns over with the starter, I'm going to get a test light and test the spark at least to one of these spark plugs and see what happens. Let's do that. So this is a spark tester. It's nothing more than a test light in here. One end hooks to the spark plug, the other end you put the spark plug wire on, crank the engine, see if the thing lights up. So here's your spark plug wire. Let's just pull that off of that spark plug, and we're gonna pop that in there. Will it fit? Does it work? I don't know. That fits on there. That fits on the spark plug, but the spark plug wire, well, I mean, I've got it, it's contacting, but it's not really engaging. Let's just, I don't know, put it in there. We'll set it in there. Now, you stay here. I'm gonna crank the car, and you tell me if that thing lights up. Anything?
Nope.
Nothing. Okay, so this did not light up. Now, is that because we're not getting anything from the coil, or is that because this connection here is no good? I'm going to try one more thing first before we dig into the distributor, and that is simply to remove a spark plug and ground it and watch it and see if it sparks. So why not? Let's do that. So let me get in here. Pull this out of here. There she is. How's she look? Why do we call everything she? I don't know. It's not bad. We've all seen worse, right? So let's do this. Look at this though. Look how old this spark plug is. I mean, I'm going to keep these. It's an old AC Delco, right? So next, what we're going to do, we're going to plug this in, just like as if it were in place, and we're gonna ground it. Oh yeah. We've got spark. That is great news. You know what else is good? Is this engine's starting to crank a little easier now. It's starting to turn over a little faster. There's actually, I did check the oil on this car. I didn't show you before, but I did check the oil. There's actually 47-year-old oil in there. And it doesn't look half bad. And it's full. Is it full? No, it's not full. That's the full mark. It's half full. It's in there. So does the oil pump work? I don't know. We're not going to run it long enough to find out. But we've got spark. Let's put that back in. And it's time to add a little gasoline to this mixture. I don't know why not. What do we got to lose? What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? I can't think of a thing. Okay, so we ran out of time. It's a few days later, and we've made some progress on some things. So I also managed to get our fuel line from our gas can up here connected and full of fuel that is now ready to siphon directly into the carburetor. I've got a cutoff valve right here and another little backup over there. But as you can see, I've got a brand new fuel filter in line there, and then that goes into the fuel line that goes directly into the carburetor. And let's get in there on that filter, because I'm going to open up this valve. You can see the fuel start to flow, okay? So if I open this up, and you can see that fuel start to flow in there. Okay, so that's ready to feed into the carburetor. And the other thought I had was, I don't know what this fuel pump is going to do, and I don't know what's in the tank right now. My guess is there's not much in the tank, and what's there is probably varnished by now. But on the chance that there's something liquid in that tank and this pump is functioning, what I did was I went ahead and hooked another hose up to the outlet of this fuel pump so that whatever gets pulled from the tank will be directed into this hose, and that will just harmlessly go into this container down here to catch that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the fuel here. And you know, I think I actually hear fuel. Now, at some point, this should stop flowing, right? Because the fuel bowl, if the needle is intact, now are we seeing fuel dripping out of here? Let's look over here. Is that new fuel coming up out of there? Yeah. So we've got a major, in fact, it's dripping out all under there. Yep. So we're going to shut that off. Hopefully. There we go. Well, that's going to put a crimp in our plans because that thing is just leaking like a sieve. What this means is that carburetor is going to have to come out. It's going to have to come out and be rebuilt. So while we turn this carburetor, my head's down here with the fumes. I'm going to put this box fan in here and just let it carry those fumes out of here. There'll be a little white noise from that, I apologize, but I think step one is going to be getting rid of this air cleaner. Oh, that sucker's, it's not even tight. Oh, bunch of fuel leaking out right here now. It actually seems like it came back through the air filter. So with this mirror, we can see there's a couple of nuts or bolt heads. Pull this out of here without losing the bolt and the washer. Whoa, I think we're making progress. Yeah. That's gonna come off of there. Now, the next thing we need to do though is pull this hose off of here. Slide that off of there. There she goes. Because I want to get as many chemicals mixed into this engine bay as possible. All right, one thing I wanted to do was get things out of the way so I can get to those bolts. So I went ahead and disconnected this throttle linkage, which we were going to have to do eventually anyway. So that gets that kind of out of the way. Now let's get rid of this tubing right here, which is attached through the engine cover. So this is just going to pull right out of here. There we go. Now that's out of our way. So we should be able to get to those bolts a lot. Corvair experts realize that is the way to go. All right, she's off of there. This one on the back, or really the front of the car, is going to be a lot trickier because it's just hard to reach. So I might not have the tools to do it. I think I'm going to need an angled wrench. There's just no room for a socket to get in there. Having the right tool makes all the difference. Let's put this angled wrench on there. And this should get us where we need to go. If I can just get it down in there. But maybe I can just switch ends of this thing back and forth. And that'll get it going. Yeah, she's turning. I wish I could turn it by hand now. Oh, there it goes. Yep, it's coming. Okay, we got that. So, is that a 1/2 inch? It's already loose. Bolts off. Yep. Okay, good. And that slipped right out of there. So what we'll do next is we're going to take this to the bench and we'll work on it over there. I put it in this bucket here because we know this fuel bowl is full of fuel. Eventually that's going to come out of there. Pretty soon here actually as we take it apart. The the float is connected to the cover, so it comes out with the cover. So there's the float right there. Sorry about that. It'll just come right out, right? That's not even tight. So that comes out of there, and that's the throttle body. This is a little divider here. Next we'll get this plug out. This is the thing that has a little check ball in it. There's a spring in there. There it goes. Little ball bearing. That's coming right out real nice. All right, let's take this automatic choke cover off. But it did have, or the new kits come with a gasket that looks a little bit like this. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Apparently a lot of times it's missing. Look at that. I'm going to take this clip off of there. Okay, there we go. And we'll continue to fill up our little basket. I got another basket. Let's use it too. So, miscellaneous parts, main carburetor body, the float bowl lid and tubing, throttle body. This thing here can go in there. Let's walk over here and drop these into our ultrasonic cleaner. This cleaner stuff, kind of running out of it, aren't I? It's getting a little low. It may have evaporated a bit over time. So we might have to soak this for a minute and then turn it after a little bit of time. And we can't really get our both baskets in at once. But let's see if we can get this ultrasonic thing going here. All right. So we'll just time that out, give it maybe 15-20 minutes, and then turn it over and keep going. Okay, while those carburetor parts are soaking in the ultrasonic cleaner, why don't we just go ahead and do a little compression test on the cylinders? Might as well. So I'm going to start by just pulling the spark plugs out. So we tried to hook up this remote starter before, but we were interrupted when fuel started leaking everywhere. So I'm going to go back to that and try it again. So we're going to get our battery up in here. We put a little screw down in here at the ignition wire. And the thought is that we can connect to that. Now, if I put this on the positive, is it going to turn over? Now, do we have everything clear? We don't have any tools sitting down. That fan is clear and everything. Let's see, I'm just going to bump it. Hey, it's working. Okay. Imagine that. Now I'll just crank it just for a sec, and you notice the sound's a little different because there's no compression in the engine. The spark plug holes are wide open. So it runs pretty freely there. So next we'll do a compression test. Here's our compression tester. Got a hose, pressure gauge, and then this fits into the spark plug hole. The only thing is, these are sometimes kind of tricky to get them to go in there. You got to get it at just the right angle and kind of twist it in there. But wouldn't you know it, it went right in. All right, so we're going to watch this gauge. Give it a few cycles. When it peaks, we'll stop cranking. Everything clear? Yep. About 90. Okay, we're going to do cylinders 1 and 2 at the same time. Here we go. And we got no no compression in cylinder 1. I'm going to recheck the connection on that. All right, so I've hooked the other compression tester up. Let's see what it does. Nothing. All right, this is going to be cylinder 3 and cylinder 4. Here we go. All right, so cylinder 3 looks like it's, what would we say, close to 100, 99-ish. This one around 115 or so, looks like. This is going to be cylinder 5 and cylinder 6. There we go. Whoa, we got about 140, close to 145 on 5, and on 6 we've got 135. Okay. All right, this is a cylinder leakage tester, and what we've done is we've put in compressed air on this side and set it to about 100 psi there. And we're going to take our number 1 cylinder and we're going to plug it in here. And this is going to be how much pressure is going in, and this will be the percent leakage will be, since we're at 100 psi, whatever this is, will be the percent leakage. Okay, now where's it leaking from? It's leaking out the, oh, here's what we did wrong. We need to make sure that cylinder number 1 is at top dead center on the compression stroke before we do this, so that the valves are closed. But interestingly, we're hearing it and feeling it leak out through the intake manifold, which means the intake valve is open. So we're going to redo this after we set cylinder number 1 to top dead center on the compression stroke. It's a little tricky determining top dead center on the compression stroke on a cylinder that has no compression, because one of the easiest ways to determine that is to feel for compression. We're not going to feel anything probably on the cylinder, or not much. So I'm going to cheat and use this video scope. I'm going to look in here and just see where the piston is right now. It's almost the top dead center, and you see how the intake valve on the left of the screen right here is open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the engine a little bit. Now the piston went down a little bit and the intake valve is open, and I think the exhaust valve is closed. I hope so. Yeah, looks like it is. So we know we're on the intake stroke right now, so we're going to follow that all the way to the bottom and back up again. Hopefully I can do this one-handed. I don't know. There we go. I'm going to break this belt. All right, now it's coming back up again. Now as it comes back up, did the intake valve close? A little hard to see it. I have a feeling it's closed because we can't see it anymore. There, I think I just see the edge of it, and it's kind of pushed itself back into its seat. So I believe we're on the compression stroke now. So we're going to come up to the top. Till it doesn't move anymore. Okay, it's not moving there. It's at the top of the compression stroke, okay? I think. So we will do our test again. Okay, we're going to pressure this up. And I can already see it's still leaking. There's some pressure coming out. Got it up to 90, but I think it might be leaking out of the exhaust. Let's see. See if it's coming up out of here. So I do hear it leaking through the crankcase, which would indicate a pressure going past the piston rings, and that's where we're hearing it. It's like listening to a little seashell. Do I also hear it No, I really don't hear it coming out of the intake or the exhaust. So what that means is it's leaking past the piston rings. Our light was making a little fan noise, so we turned that off so darker, but I've got my stethoscope, and as I listen here, yep, I hear it very prominently. As I listen here, yep, just as loud. If I go down here to the tailpipe, I can hear it. So it seems to be leaking out of multiple places. Maybe we've got a ring problem and valve problems, or are we really in the compression stroke? I think we are. If we're not, then the intake and exhaust valves could be in their crossover point where they're both a little bit open. It's a little hard to tell. One last test we can do on that #1 cylinder is a wet compression test. We put about a tablespoon of oil into that cylinder, not enough to create hydrolock, but enough that maybe it'll improve the compression in that cylinder and bring it around a little bit with another compression test. 55. Okay, so it did develop a bit of compression, not a lot, but maybe that tells us that the issue is more with the piston rings than a valve problem, and maybe with a few running cycles and heat cycles, those rings will expand and we'll get decent compression in that cylinder after all. At this point, I'm thinking I've taken my diagnostic acumen about as far as it could go, and I think we'll stop there and just work on getting hopefully a sealed and working carburetor on here and see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and check out these parts, and they look pretty good. Looks like this was pretty dull, and these are coming out pretty clean. I really like this. Look at these screws, really shiny. Look almost new there. Those look really good. The carburetor body. Some of the nooks and crannies are still going to need some attention, but at least we softened it up. But as you can see, a lot better. You can read all the lettering and everything on there. We'll need to work on it with some, like a brush and some more cleaners and get down into these spots down here. But it's already softened up so much, I'm just touching that with my finger and that grime's coming off. So that made a big, big difference. There's the top of the fuel bowl. Looks much better. And the throttle body. That looks really shiny there. This thing's got some rust on it, but that really cleaned up pretty nice. We might want to buff that out a little or something eventually. I mean, I'll do a full, more cosmetic type rebuild later. In the meantime, we got one more thing of parts to throw in there. Didn't have room for that before. There we go. See how it does. The carburetor parts are all clean, so let's put this thing back together. One thing I'm concerned about is once the engine starts, how will I know if the oil pressure is adequate? There is an oil pressure indicator light, a dummy light if you will, that when you turn the ignition on and the engine is off, it should light up to indicate that there's no oil pressure. So the question is, does our light do that? Well, we've got a generator fan light, but we don't have an oil pressure temperature light. So we got no way of knowing from this whether we've got good oil pressure. So is this a burned out bulb, or do we have some other problem? I want to kind of chase that down. This is the oil pressure sending unit and the connection from it. And what I want to know is, if I connect this to the positive lead of the battery, it should be grounded right now because there's no oil pressure. So I should get an indicator of 12 volts from the battery, and I do. So the switch is good in the resting position at least, and there's continuity at least to that point. So let's see if there's continuity. We have continuity here. We'll see if there's continuity to where it appears to go to this harness right here. And there is. So this connector here passes up here, goes here, ends up down here, and there's a dark blue wire there, which according to the wiring diagram should be carrying that oil pressure sending unit signal. And that's right here. So let's see. So there's continuity to that point. So there's no break all along the system all the way up to there. That's pointing more and more toward perhaps a burned out bulb, unless there's discontinuity somewhere between there and the bulb. So one thing we could do is create our own indicator light just by doing what we did there with the voltmeter with a test light, right? So we could connect this on the positive lead there. Okay. I don't know what I'm talking about really, but I think that should, in theory, become the oil pressure indicator light, with the advantage that we can see it from back here and we don't have to run back and forth to the dashboard to look at it. But in the meantime, maybe I can change out that bulb up front there and see if we can get an indicator on the dash as well. Well, I hate to say it, but they don't make it easy to get in there and find that bulb and change it out. I think it'd be a bit of disassembly of the instrument cluster to get back in there. So I might put that off to a later time and just rely on our MacGyver light back in the back there, because I don't really feel like digging into all that right now. Well, I did me a little thinking on this, and yes, I get my test light to light up, and I'm concluding that's because the oil pressure switch is grounded. But what if this wire is going to ground somewhere as a fault? And sure enough, that lights up, indicating that this wire is improperly grounded somewhere else. So that oil pressure light, in theory, would be on all the time, regardless of the condition of the switch here, because it's grounded. So that may be why the bulb burned out. It's probably just lit up all the time. So what we need to do is test it right here at the switch, and we can see that it does light up at the switch. So the switch should be good. And just to get everything out of the way, I got a little female spade connector here to just clip onto this, and we can take this, and that is our oil pressure indicator light. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and change the oil before we try to start it up. Some people might suggest get it started, let that oil circulate a little bit, then change it. But we've cranked it over a few times. That oil is very old. I would feel better just draining that out and replacing it. So let's get to it. The oil doesn't look too bad. It's not like a bunch of chunks are coming out of there. Here's the oil pan bolt. It's in good condition other than the rusty top. Doesn't have any kind of a washer or seal there. I think it's supposed to. But for our purposes, I'm just going to put this back in as is. A lot of people will get the torque specs and torque it. Other people feel like that's pretty unnecessary. I suppose I'd torque it, but I think the next thing is the engine's going to come out anyway, so I'm just going to tighten it appropriately, if you will. Okay. She's full. I've been thinking, one of the things I want to do is to be able to start and stop this engine from back here in the back. So I've got my remote starter. Okay, step one, start the car. How can I stop the car from back here? I did a little reading and researching on the internets, and this is the low tension lead from the coil, and it goes to the distributor, and it grounds the primary windings of the coil. Every time the contacts open in the distributor, it breaks that ground. And when it breaks that ground, the magnetic field created while the primary windings were grounded collapses, and that creates a very high voltage, which then provides spark through the high tension lead to the distributor, which is distributed to the spark. So in the absence of the intermittent grounding of the low tension lead by the points in the distributor, you would never collapse that magnetic field, and you would never develop high voltage. You would never develop spark in the engine. So what we can do is we can permanently ground this whenever we want to stop providing spark to the combustion chambers, effectively halting the engine. So what I want to do is hook up a switch from here to ground that I can turn on and off to allow us to stop the engine from back here. Okay, got a little on-off switch here. Let's see if it works. On, off. She works. Got some spare wire here. Got a little loop I can probably fit over this. Yeah. Okay, make sure that's good ground. Should work. Okay, that's grounded. So what we're going to do, the other end of this wire. So when this switch is on, primary windings of the coil are permanently grounded. And on basically means off as far as the engine goes, because no spark will be created in theory. If I turn this off, then the primary windings are intermittently ungrounded by the contacts in the distributor, allowing us to produce spark. Okay, now the switch is on. No spark. Switch off. Positive spark. All right, that should work as a kill switch then. Here's the spark plugs. I'd like to keep using them for now. I think they'll develop good spark. I do think they could stand to be cleaned up a bit, so I'm gonna work on that. These cleaned up pretty good. Wire wheel did the trick. Look pretty good. I do have another little gizmo that I can use to potentially get a little better cleaning where it really counts between the electrodes there. So I don't know how well it works, but let's give it a shot. This is a spark plug cleaner. Picked this up a little while ago. It's got some media in there, and I hooked my air compressor up to it. I guess they used to have these in every gas station. Clean your plugs. I can't really see much difference. Maybe starting to get a little bit of difference. I'm gonna do a little more. Yeah, it's starting to clean up. I don't know if that's showing up or not. It's better. We'll try it. The time has come to put this carburetor back on. Let's do it. Much better. So we need to back the whole thing out. We'll keep these engaged at least, but we'll pull that out a little bit so we can get this back nut at least started. Wish me luck. Oh, I got it started. Sure did. If I could find my angled wrenches, that'd be great. Found it. That's why we call it Lost Wrench Garage. Right there. Am I in your way? Sorry. This, you know, who knows what this is? Somebody put a manual choke or something in there when this thing went kaput. But it's not attached to anything. I don't know. If somebody knows what that is, let me know. Does this fit in there? No. It's tearing up the fingertips. You know what I'm saying? And this thing is on my last nerve. Oh, man. Okay. That'll free up a little space. That actually worked. Yep. That's tight. I'm dog sitting for my daughter, and her dog is carrying on quite the conversation with the neighbor dogs. They have discovered each other's existence, and they're discussing it loudly. Okay, now we got a few other things to hook up. Start with the throttle return spring. Tell you what though, this needs some lubrication. How about that? Squeaking eliminated. How did this go? I guess, pretty simple, right? It just sucks right in down there. Yeah, sure does. All right. It's not rocket surgery. Here's a question for you. Did I change how many threads that was threaded in there? I might have. Okay. I do feel that it needs to be threaded up in there more. Now that I've kind of seen that, I'm going to undo everything I just did. No! Oh God, I see it. Oh, that was bad. Oh, that would have been very bad. Let's cover that up. So dumb, right? Y'all were thinking it all along. Nobody said anything though. Disaster averted. So we're just gonna tighten this up on there to get it to where it's, I think, where it was before, just based on the rustiness of the exposed threads. Looks like it's gonna be a little more level attitude when it's in position. I think it's hitting its stop, not in the linkage itself. Yeah, we've got to put the warm air intake for the automatic choke up in there. That seems good. I think she's all hooked up. Tomorrow might be kind of a big day. We're going to try and start this thing again. I've got a few friends coming over to help me out, at least one of whom definitely knows a lot more about cars than I do. So if things go sideways, hopefully I'll have a little bit of help. One last thing I want to do before we try this again, and that is clean this whole thing out a little bit. Let's do it. Perfect. I mean, it's beautiful. Today's day, we're gonna try to start this engine again. One thing I want to address before we try to start this, if a Corvair has been sitting for a very long time, you should always remove the fan shroud and inspect the cylinders and cylinder heads to make sure that the cooling fins aren't contaminated with debris. Because if those fins are clogged up with junk, they won't cool the engine properly. You could damage the engine by overheating it. But I'm not too worried. I have scoped the heck out of this underside of this shroud. Every spark plug opening, every fin of the fan blade, and I've looked in there and I don't see any evidence of significant contamination of the cooling fins anywhere. no mouse nests, no squirrel debris, no mud daubers. The only thing I see is some rust and some oil. And I figure if rust and oil were enough to bring one of these Corvairs to its knees, there would never be one running on the road right now. The other thing we're going to do this time around, which of course we should have done the first time we tried to start it, is fog the cylinders with some lubricant. The walls of the cylinders are dry from sitting, so I think it's best if we put some lubricant in there. Okay, so here's the plan. We have our, hopefully, oil pressure indicator light here. We've got a kill switch down there. I think the only other thing we need to do is fog these cylinders. 10W30.
That'll work.
I think about anything will work, right?
Yep. It's going to slowly trickle down through the corrugated tube. That's good. Now we're going to have to let that sit for a minute.
Yeah.
That oil now has to run down all these corrugations.
Yeah.
So it will be incredibly slow. Do you have just a long tube? So we're going to put this tube down into the oil and put our thumb over it. And then if you'll notice when I release it, it gets a little blorp there. That's probably more than enough.
I mean, it's just kind of resting up against the hole. It's not really going down in there, but hopefully we'll get it down in the cylinders, right?
Yeah.
And then I think we could also just scope and see what's in there when we're done. Okay.
And what we could do is before we put the spark plugs in, turn it over and see if we're getting a good mist coming out of the cylinder. If we don't see any mist coming out of the cylinder, then we're going to say, hey, we're not getting enough oil in there. You're going to be looking for a puff of oil mist coming out of these holes right here. I don't see much mist coming out.
I don't see anything. More oil?
Yeah.
Actually, what I want to do, I just want to throw my scope down there. So
looks like there's oil in
a
there.
puddle there.
What would happen? Pull that out just a little bit. What would happen if we bump this?
Yeah.
And I mean bump it, not run it, but bump it, right?
Yeah.
So
While
make sure
I'm
you-
looking?
right?
But I'm not.
Okay. See, that's very, very good. I'm happy with that amount of oil because when there's
Yeah.
compression in there, it's going to swirl the air around.
By the way, those valves are.
They working?
They're working. They look like they're working.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
scope the next one.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Hang on. Let me make sure I'm not too far down in there.
Okay. Ready?
Okay.
Well, I like what I see so far.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the next one.
Yep.
Hang on now. Okay. I see both valves moving real nice. Yeah, and also I don't think we're hydrolocking like you said. Okay, put a little oil in the other cylinders then, right?
Well, let's scope them first and see what they look like. I mean, there may be residual oil from the last time you did it.
See, that's
It's not dry.
It's not dry, but yeah.
I'm gonna bump it. You ready? See both valves moving.
yeah, I agree.
It's not dry.
Yeah.
I think it's all right.
Okay. Do you mean that we don't even need to put any more oil in
No, I
it?
don't think so. You don't need excess oil. It'll just make it harder to ignite and smoke and everything else like that.
Okay.
See, like at the very top of the screen, see
Yeah.
that residual layer that's drugged down through there? That tells you that there's been oil in there, right?
Yeah.
Those valves are
They're
moving.
moving real
I'm trying to
nice.
see if I can bump it so I could see the valve seat surface, not the seat, but to see the valve.
Like where where it
Yeah, where it
seals.
seats on the
Yeah,
valve
I'm trying to
seat.
get
It
you a
doesn't look
better
too
view.
bad.
It's hard to like if you want to close that valve. I don't know which one that is.
Oh, well, I was going to see if I could bump around to the other one.
Yeah,
They don't look too bad.
I agree.
I mean, they look old.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they are, right? But
yeah.
I don't see any major scoring on the cylinders. Of course, we can only see one part of the cylinder, but
There we go.
Okay, ready?
Hang on. Let me just get paranoid back up. Okay.
I don't see the valves.
I don't either.
but
I'm having trouble view of it. Yeah. hard to see
I
on this
saw one.
Yeah, there's one.
Oh, they're both all right. They're moving.
And do you think there's some oil in there, right?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
This being a horizontal engine, the oil kind of pools on the wall.
Yeah, it'll pool on the bottom.
Why is my oil indicator light out here? That switch should be grounded and it's not, right? Because there
Right.
shouldn't be any oil pressure in there. Did the switch just get stuck?
That makes me wonder.
Because our our oil pressure indicator switch seems to be stuck right now and is no longer grounded in a no pressure situation. We think we should pull that pressure switch out and bump the engine just to see if oil comes shooting out of
We have
there.
nothing. We have no
No
indication.
indicator.
This line will have to come off. This one may not have to come off, but this one will have to come off to get to the oil pressure switch.
We'll start with that.
Yep.
Get this maybe out of the way a little more.
So, yeah, see, now I think we've got enough room. We can get in there and
Okay.
first just see how well the socket fits. Don't put the wrench in there.
Good point. That's a good point. She fits.
You'll probably need an extension.
Yes. Way ahead of it.
Yeah, we're talking.
Oh man, 4 times distance.
Get some torque. Woo! All right.
Are we videoing?
We are. Yeah. Uh-oh. She's slipping.
What?
She's slipping.
Oh, okay.
1 and 1/16. What's going on? Okay, hang on.
Well, what's interesting is how they've kerfed all the corners,
Okay.
right?
Is that why it's
And so this is slipping around those corners.
all right? So okay. Now what do we need?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Channel locks, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Good thing we bought those sockets.
Thank God. Oh, that looks like our part too, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
So
Oh,
yeah,
A
here I'll
little
put it up
taller.
here. It's a little taller. Is that gonna be a problem? Probably not. I don't think so.
Actually,
it's got clearance
it'll
out
make it
there.
easier to get to.
Yeah, good point. It'll be sticking up more like that.
Yeah.
But
Now,
this whole thing's pretty nasty.
I would like to bump this over just to see if we get a. Hold that just so it doesn't get in the pulley.
Yeah.
ready?
I'll stick my hand down.
Are
on the
we
engine.
ready?
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
yeah,
bump.
Yeah.
No oil pressure.
Oh,
there we go. Now we got oil pressure. There you go.
All right, we're gonna drop the new one in. This could take a while. This is where we put this. This is where we put the video on a little time lapse for a minute, and we go zip, 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 and all our voices go.
How's that go again? I can't. I mean, is it tight? I don't know.
My back is tight. I know that. We could just call that good and see if it leaks.
Ready? Going for it.
She went out. Will she come back on again?
I don't know. It may take a while for that to bleed down.
Maybe that's why that's.
there it is.
It may.
Oh, there. No, man, we waited way longer.
We did. We
Waited
did.
longer.
Okay, let's do it again for confirmation.
All right, and we
All
don't
right.
see. I don't see anything seeping out of there. Do you?
No. Now, when it gets under significant RPM, it might seep. You might have to tighten it back up. I'm convinced that that circuit is working properly.
Yeah, I would agree. It's behaving as
Behaving as it should.
So, are we ready to put some spark plugs in there, hook them up, and fire this baby up? Of course, gonna put.
Yes.
All right then.
Well, how's the spark look? Have you?
Well, we can take a look at it. Let's take a look.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It's sparking, but that's not a strong spark. Have you taken apart all the little connections and cleaned them with like
No.
Scotch-Brite pad or something to get
we
you?
can do that.
You got to have good, clean contacts for good spark. This looks very clean and new.
Nice. Yeah, it does. It really does.
The button on here looks clean.
Okay.
On the rotor,
Okay.
let me pull the rotor off a minute. That should just pull. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no burn spots on there. See the end of the rotor? There's no burn spots on the end of that. I think the weak spark is not an issue at this point of anything in the distributor.
Okay. Snug it down in there.
Yep.
You should see junk coming out of there.
I can't see, but does it look better?
Yeah, it
Okay.
looks better.
All right. Well, let's just do all of them while we're at it. It's got to be better than it was. Honestly, I mean, we're just looking to see if we can get it. If it just sputters and runs,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even care if it revs up. If it just idles
What
and
about
does what it's supposed to do.
testing a spark now that we cleaned it out? See what it looks
Yeah,
like.
that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, we can
Let's
do
just
that.
hit it.
See if it's any better. All right. Okay, bump first.
Okay.
Ready, bump? And now we're going to go hot.
No spark at all.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe if you hook the high tension lead back up to the coil.
Yeah,
complete
okay.
the circuit.
That might
That might
might
assist in that regard.
Bump.
spark already.
Ready? Spark.
It's the same.
All right. Well,
It's the same. I mean, I clean these up too, so.
you know what? Then let's just.
Yeah.
Well,
No
Is
sense
this-
wasting effort. We
Yeah.
tried
Is this
it.
trip necessary? No.
Yeah, no,
Right.
yeah.
Right. We did 3.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
didn't see any significant difference. Then we're not
That
going to
was
do the other.
that was
three.
my thing, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you were spot on there, sir.
I actually helped today. That's shocking.
You
There you go.
contributed in many meaningful ways. Okay, I'm gonna put these where I think they're supposed to go, and then we're gonna recheck it. So 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, yes, and then 6. Check all those. Good. Now, I wonder if I should go ahead and put these fuel lines back on. Getting these fuel lines reattached, and then I'll tighten those down. Because we'll just want to see if this fuel pump's doing anything when the engine actually starts. I don't think it's going to do anything. Am I going the right way? Wait. No. So I was looking at it backwards.
We'll just edit that out.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, just forget that. It's cutting room floor. We'll fix it in the post. That's what they're saying.
Post-production.
Yeah.
Fix that in
Set
post.
it away here. That's pretty tight. I'm gonna move on to this one. All right, we're reaching the last step here. We gotta get some gasoline to this engine. I'm gonna get a container to just, or actually I'll just flow it down here. Is it still flowing? Yeah, it's flowing real good. Okay. No sparks now, please. Plug that in there, and then I need a little Phillips.
Open that up. Open that up. I want to see. Hopefully, it's going to start flowing out of the filter. You see evidence that it's.
Yeah, it's flowing
where
right there, see?
Where it's holding steady. Is the volume holding steady while it's still flowing in?
Yes, it is. Like we're not,
So that's good. That means it's
it's filling the bowl.
filling the bowl.
It's perfectly choked. Okay, I got the choke setting so that it's just closed there. So it should open with engine vacuum. Everybody ready?
Yeah, bump it first. See what it does.
Oh, it's got compression.
It's something.
Yeah, heard that. It's not. It's getting weaker though. I wonder if our battery's strong enough. Here we go.
Plate's not opening at all.
It's vacuum. And now
Oh.
we're getting fuel's leaking out.
Now it's flooding.
Yeah, it's flooding. Why is it flooding? Also, our battery's not strong enough, I don't think, to start this
Do
engine.
you have a battery charger? Well, let's give it some juice. We're running out of a good places
Space on the
to.
battery.
Yeah.
Ready for me to plug this in? What's the choke doing? It's open.
It's open. Let's
Okay.
just bump it first.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it fired. It sure did.
Okay. And the throttle's not stuck open, so it shouldn't race, right?
No, it shouldn't race because I'll show you the position. See, it's
Yeah,
closed.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Do you have any starter fluid? Go ahead. Okay. The battery doesn't seem to be very happy.
Yeah. I want to put another battery on there.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at now.
All right.
Bump it and see
All right,
if
this
it
is a
works.
different battery. There's a spark over there. It's pulling vacuum when I close that choke.
Sounded like
It's
it
pulling
was.
harder, yeah. All right, what else?
I'm not convinced that remember I told you that spark is really weak.
I know, I think it's a
Yeah.
spark issue.
I think it is.
So I think we're maybe shut down for today because we just don't have a good spark. Maybe because we don't have a good battery. Maybe there's still this coil is not good. We do have another coil we could try at some point. I guess we could
We'll try that now.
I mean,
Swap them
it
out.
wouldn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I need
There
to
should
move that
be.
way down.
We got a new coil in here, so we're going to test the spark with a new coil. No spark. I had one spark and then nothing. We're going to shut things down for the day. Didn't get it started. We're just not getting enough spark. Whether we have other problems or not, I don't know, but we've got to solve that issue. I'm going to have to get a battery that really fits this car. I was hoping to get away with just rigging up an existing battery that I had just to get the car started, but I don't think that's going to work. I probably need to get new spark plugs. I don't know if I need to, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's my laundry list of things to do, but I'm not going to get to it today. It's the next day, and I've been doing some shopping. I got a new battery. I also picked up some new sparks because I think our problem is lack of spark. It's their spark, but it's not strong. So I'm gonna give it another shot today. Let's do it. Oh, feels like a dream. Now, I just wanted to do a little spark test before we try to fire this again. See if the spark's any stronger. I'm gonna still use my old spark plugs for now. It's hard to tell if that's any stronger or not. Take a look at the new spark plug. Fit in there okay. See spark, but it's awful weak. Here's the old plug. It's actually a nice looking spark right there. Much better than before, I think. And since those old plugs are in there right now, I'm gonna go ahead and try to start this engine with the old plugs. Here we go. Oh, she wants to fire. Oh, yes. Did you see that? Something's rattling fierce. I think it's the fan. I hope it's the fan, not the valve train or something more serious. It doesn't want to be unchoked right now, so I might need to get back in there and reset that choke. This is extremely exciting. That's Careful on it, just choke plates slightly open. Let's try this again. Got it running. It's not idling right now. And I don't know what that rattle is. I think it's the fan. Sure sounds bad. Take the belt off and just spin that fan and see if that's where the noise is coming from. I don't see any fuel leaks anywhere. I think it's flooded. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit. While this car sits and maybe unfloods itself, I'm gonna go ahead and take the fan belt off. I wanna take the fan out of the equation as a source of that noise. Oh, I see. Swivel's on there. So it's at the loosest setting. She's off. This belt's seen better days, but haven't we all? That wasn't too bad. Yeah, it's got a little, I guess, fork there, and it can be tightened in that position once you loosen this swivel point here. And then you tighten it right there whenever you get it at the tension that you want. Here's a question. Pretty loud. I think that's what we're hearing, right? Try to start again without the fan. Obviously, we won't run her long enough to overheat. If there's fuel in that bowl. Oh! Didn't turn the fuel on. It might have gone dry. I could have consumed all the fuel because I didn't turn it on to gravity feed. Let's see if there's fuel here. Let the gravity feed shut off. No fuel coming out. Maybe we lost our gravity feed. Let's see if it still falls in there. No, it's not flowing in there. So that's part of our issue. We're gonna have to get our gravity feed going. So we may just be out of fuel in the carburetor. That's good news. But I'm gonna have to re-siphon this, get it flowing again. Let's get our little bulb. I'm going to open this up and look for fuel to start filling the bowl here. Yep, there it goes. And it's flowing. That's kind of cool. It's filling and flowing down, meaning the needle's open, starting to well up in the top. So now I know the needle closed and we have fuel in the bowl. So I'll just put this back on. So that was just a case of fuel starvation, I believe. Okay. go. Wants to. Getting a little fuel leak out of the carburetor here. Might be overchoked now. The ignition switch is off. So it's behaving just as it should. Okay. I never said I was smart. Never once said that. Noise we were hearing was definitely the fan. I know we're heating up. I'm just going to try to adjust the idle screw a little. I don't think it's in on all 6 cylinders. Woo! Just smoking a little, not bad. Cutoff switch works too. Oh, Happy New Year to me. We did it. We did it. We got it running. We're covered in smoke. It smells beautiful to me right now. This is amazing. I'm going to put the fan belt back on and maybe we can run this engine a little bit more just for fun. Let's do it. That seems good. Okay, here we go. Loud. Gauge looks like in the cabin. Looks like the needle's starting to move on the temperature gauge a little bit. Get a little more smoke out of there. It's actually running pretty smooth, I think. Starting to smoke pretty bad, I guess. I'll open the other door. See the temperature gauge in here. It may not be working after all. We might need to shut it down just because I don't know if we got a working gauge there. Like I said, I don't know the condition of the fins on the cylinder heads, so probably want to shut it down. She's smoky, she's noisy, but she runs. Oh yes, she does. I mean, I don't feel really any heat on the shroud. Feels okay, I mean. Well, y'all, we got it running. It's pretty exciting. It was a lot of fun doing it. Question is, what's next? Do we try to get this thing on the road? We need to address the brakes. The tires are shot. I don't know anything about the transmission, whether that's got issues or not. Might be fun. Just kind of get on the road a little bit before we tear it apart. Let me know what you think. This has been a real fun project so far. It's taken a while, but I'm just learning. I'm just figuring this stuff out, having fun doing it. Hope you had fun watching me take this journey and coming along with me. Stay tuned for more. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care.